This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of Uranium Energy Corp, Mr. Amir Adnani. Amir, we just chatted last week. It's great to have you back on. How are you?
We've been busy 2 weeks in a row for you and I to connect. That's a lot.
Well, let's get right into it. It seems like every week now we're talking about a milestone. The latest is UEC submitting an offer to the U.S. government to supply the strategic uranium reserve. Now, one, let me congratulate you first off, but two, let me also give you credit for laying the groundwork and the foundation for all of these catalysts during what was one of the worst bear markets in the uranium space. That's really when a lot of the foundational work that you're seeing pay off now happened. So congratulations to you and your team for having the vision to position shareholders the way you have. And with that being said, I'll let you provide the context. Pretty big deal.
Gerardo, I appreciate it. The UEC team, as you know, have had a very strong and singular mission from the get-go to really, and the get-go being, 17, almost 18 years ago. So it's been a long journey, but in this journey, we really haven't wavered from the main focus that uranium was going to be a strategic energy commodity, and that it was ultimately a matter of national security to make sure that there was supplies available in our own backyard in the US, and that this ultimately has really manifested itself in the form of this program, this newly created program by the US government that's being administered out of the Department of Energy by the National Nuclear Security Administration. This is a national uranium reserve. It's going to be a 10-year, or it's designed to be a 10-year, $10 billion plan with a $75 million authorization to date for the purchase of uranium, which gets you to about £1 million purchase that the US government is out to make right now. So again, this is historic stuff. You and I have talked about it. The last time you look to see, when was the last time the US government bought physical uranium for its own account? And you got to go back to the Eisenhower administration, to the 1950s. And the backdrop today of the risks associated with depending and relying too much on Russian uranium imports and increasingly China or Russia's allies is creating just precarious risk. And so domestic supply is critical for US energy and national security. And we have been building Uranium Energy Corp over the last 17, 18 years to be focused, to be a sector leader when it comes to US production capability. And in fact, if you really go back and think about our discussions year to date, this is one of the primary drivers behind our acquisition of Russia's Uranium One. Repatriating this very important company and asset back to US ownership and control. And so while obviously very highly accretive transaction for UEC and UEC shareholders, that acquisition really increased the domestic capabilities of uranium mining and the country's nuclear fuel supply chain capability. So excited that UEC is in a position to submit an offer to the US government and to supply and hopefully be there in the mix now and moving forward, supplying the strategic uranium reserve and US utilities, which collectively are the largest consumers of uranium in the world.
Let's look ahead a bit, because you mentioned the utilities. The spot price continues to hover near the $50 mark. Both you and I know that it's going to have to be higher to incentivize new production to come online. How do you see the market developing as it relates to the utilities, which remain on the sidelines, despite the fact that in the next 18 to 24 months, a lot of the existing contracts are going to be up for renewal? And so where do you see that? When do you see that change happening and that pivot happening with the utilities? And how consequential is that for the price?
I mean, literally, as you and I are speaking right now, there's a tweet that came out from Southern Company talking about the very important milestone they've just met at the Vogtle Unit 3 being built, the new unit, reactor unit that's being built in the state of Georgia. And this is, again, a historic milestone for them, and developing and bringing that unit on to join the other 94 units that are operating in the US. And right now in the US, there's incredible dependence on imports from Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. Over 50% of imports are currently coming from those countries. There's definitely a bifurcation in the market. Western utilities, especially seeing the squeeze that Russia has put on Western Europe with respect to oil and gas supplies. This is something that no one wants to see get repeated for uranium. And so I think the political pressure that's building up right now in Washington, coupled with the common sense approach of US utilities seeing that longer term, they need to really move away from Russia as a supplier of uranium. Russia is not a reliable supplier of uranium or nuclear fuel, not when it's waging war and acts of hostilities, what you're seeing happen in Ukraine. And so, Gerardo, I really see that we're going to have an unprecedented wave of demand coming into the market for uranium here. And it's really illustrated by the supply-demand fundamentals you see, where you have globally 200 million pounds of demand and only 130 million pounds of supply from mining. But even more profound in the United States, where there's roughly 50 million pounds of annual demand and currently no domestic uranium mining. None, nil, zero. And so I think we have arguably an unprecedented wave of demand and contracting activity and whatnot upon us. And again, it's truly demonstrated in the structural supply deficit that you see, again, both in the global market, but also very strongly in the US market for the domestic 93 units going on to 94.
It's been fun watching you work through a bear market. I am going to have an absolute blast watching you and the team work through this uranium bull market. Amir, thank you for your time as always. Anything else to add to that?
No, I appreciate it. Let's be in touch soon. There's a lot going on. I'm excited to connect and talk about this. And let's really have some fun with this new uranium bull market that we have shaping up.
Looking forward to it. Thank you again.
Thanks, Gerardo.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.